before Maisy was born.
Hello everyone and welcome to Devils United. This is the preview for Manchester United versus Man City. Hello everyone and welcome back to Devils United. Today I'll be doing a preview for Manchester United versus Man City. With me today I have got Andy and I have got John. How are we both?
I'm good. As you can tell, I'm so chatty. I can't wait to get started. Clearly by talking over your intro. So let's get going. Let's get going. Pumped up for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm pumped up just because I want to hear what Andy's got to say. So no pressure, Andy.
Yeah, no pressure.
The spotlight's on Andy for tonight.
Yeah, kind of actually. It's what I normally have.
We've got a couple of comments here today. I can see we've got here Niall, we've got Rich, we've got Connor, we've got Brad, Matt, Nippon, and we've also got Andrew and Chloe in the chat. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll put your comments on the screen as well whilst we're doing our discussion. And I've got some questions planned. So if anyone does have any opinions on what you do have with the questions, pop them in the live chat if you do have any questions at all. I'll go with my first question, which was if we was going to make any changes from Sunday's game, if we was going to make any changes in terms of the squad, or do you think we might just go with our strongest lineup? What would you think, John?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at my own joke. So,
What a good start, that mate. To be honest, carry on.
The private chat's already a bit crazy. Okay. Will we make any changes? I think we'll be forced to a little bit because of injuries, etc. I do think we'll change it slightly because it's a Conti Cup game. So fans are crying out for certain players to get a bit of game time. I think it's controversial because it's going to be a massive game. It's a game that we need to win to qualify. It's a game against our derby. It's a derby. So if we make too many changes, we could potentially make massive fools out of ourselves. But on the flip side, I'm one of these people who think Skinner should stick to his guns. If he's got a Conti Cup team, then stick to it, and then he can play the other players in the league. So I do think there'll be changes. Maybe I'll ask Andy see what changes he will make first. But I do think there will be about maybe 3 or 4 changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, he would like to make more changes. But as John alluded to, there's some injuries that have come up. Martha Harris, who was typically a Conti Cup player, she's not going to be in there, so that would have been an automatic change. You've got to assume that Kirsty Smith's going to start, which would be great because she's been injured for a while. Millie Turner's still out. Jackie is a state secret. What's wrong with her? Hayley Ladd is still unwell. So they're kind of the people you'd expect to see at the Conti. So it might look like he's made a different sort of sea change, and that he's tried to go for the cup. But I get the impression he might just actually have to do like a hybrid between what he would have done and what he's going to do. I think that Bagley will come in for Mary, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Mary's really good, and I'm a massive fan of Mary, but Bagley's really good as well. So I'm really glad to see her get some game time. You have to assume that Karis Jones and Ivana will also start. So there are some movement he can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was thinking as well, maybe Borisa might make a start again, because I know she did make a start against Everton, and she may potentially make that start again. And maybe Fuso, she might start Ivana, knowing that she started in the last County Cup game against Durham. Carrie Jones, she may even make a start as well, or maybe even come on as a sub at least.
Yeah. There you go. Go on, John.
No, sorry, Andy. I agree with those names. I definitely think Borisa She got subbed off, didn't she, in the game on Sunday? So she'll probably be more rested than most, I guess. And then he could argue maybe Lucy Stan as well. So Lucy started the season quite well. Haven't seen as much of her since some of the players got back fit. So she will be a good substitute for replacement, for Ella Toon, potentially. Like I said, we could probably go for the whole team and say this could happen. But I agree with the people in the comments. Maybe like 4 changes max. So maybe 1 goalkeeper, 1 fullback, and then maybe 1 midfielder, 1 striker, that kind of area.
Yeah, I was thinking as well, you don't want to change it a bit too much, knowing that how big the game still is, because Manchester City is the biggest game you can play, and we've already played against Man City before. We did get a point out of the Man City game, but knowing this is a cup and this is something what we're wanting to aim for as well, because we are wanting a cup trophy more than anything, because the last cup we did win was actually the Championship, and I think that what Matt Skinner is also going to be aiming for too, a cup or the Champions League at least.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it's different, because you would also say that at this stage most other WSL teams would put their academy players out as well. But Gareth Taylor, hashtag we want you to stay. You're doing great for us, mate. Really appreciate it. He doesn't like his academy. He doesn't rate his players. He says they're not WSL standard, which means that he's not going to probably use that many. So he probably will play a pretty strong team. So it just depends. I mean, we do need to win tomorrow. I mean, I haven't got my calculator out, but I know we pretty much need to win tomorrow to have any chance to go anywhere with the Conti. So certainly if we don't either draw or lose, then it will just be academy teams full stop for the rest of the group games in the Conti. But I think, as I say, I think that that it is interesting where he's going to go, because he's probably going to focus cup-wise. He's probably going to focus on the FA Cup. But the problem with that is the FA fairly and impartially always draws against City in the first round anyway, so that we go in. So it just depends. I'd like to keep both cups going if we can, but it just depends of our squad.
Yeah, if I could just add to this, I think it's really interesting, because we was talking a little bit earlier that no matter who Skinner puts out, I think he's going to come under criticism. So we put a little poll out on our Twitter earlier, and we had 38 votes. 50% saying this should rotate, 50% saying they should put your strongest starting 11 out. So automatically you're going to have 19 fans before the game's even started, before the ball's being kicked. They're going to be unhappy. And I think this is just kind of where we are at the moment now. I think, there's so many opinions out there about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I don't know if you kind of voted on that, but what do you think the pros and cons of starting your strongest 11 would be?
I could be really sneaky and say, what do you think I voted? Because I did vote on that. Go on. I'll answer the question as well, but what go on. Well, without sounding too, you got a 50% chance of getting it right at least. So,
You're one of the 19 of one way or the other. Nice to know that you're one of the 38. Thank you for that.
Of course.
I think the way that you've been speaking throughout the show, with potential changes, I'll probably say that you would probably vote for rotation.
That's correct. That's correct.
And I did the same, but I do completely understand that it's a cup. We want to win a cup. We stand more chance of winning this cup than most cups potentially. So for the people who want to start the strongest 11, that's absolutely fine. I get it.
Yeah, no, as I say, I'll do the pros and cons now. I just thought that was a bit interesting to see, and obviously on the right wavelength, me and you, John, now. But no, I think, I mean, as fans, we want to win every game, we want to play the strongest we can every game. But obviously, we get that players need to be rested and rotated. And if you run at 100 miles an hour, you just can't keep up all season. That said, it is a weird cup, the Conti Cup. I mean, obviously, I've been aware of it since United formed 3 seasons ago. As I say, it's hard to work out what it is. I think it's quite close to the Carabao in the sense of, in the men's game, where some people really value it, other people almost use it as a swear word when it comes to talking about the fixtures. But then then it's not as disrespected as much. It's kind of like a Carabao cross with the Europa a little bit. So like it has value, but people only seem to think like they magically appear in the quarterfinals, and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, let's go win the Conti Cup. And you've got to obviously put the building blocks in place at the group stages. I think the main thing about rotation as well is that, you know, we've discussed on other shows as well that we need, some of our players need competition and need that seat to be a little hot or at least a bit warm. You know, I think you've got to see how great Mary's kicked on this year now. Sophie Bagley's nipping at her heels. You know, certainly in the midfield, we could do with real pressure being put on certain players that, okay, well, if I mess this up, I could be on the bench for a significant period of time. And I think that gives that time for the squad players to shine, and obviously helps Skinner with his evaluation going into January.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I think especially when we're in this early bit of the stages of the Conti Cup as well, you can afford to make them little bit of them couple of changes, especially when we are so early into the Super League. We are wanting to pick up these points where we can. Like, I know we've got Arsenal, we've got Aston Villa, we've got Brighton as well coming ahead of us, and they're the teams as well, especially when you play Arsenal, who's in such great form, and you've got Brighton, who's very difficult to beat away. So it's that you're going to want to play these strongest teams, like in your strongest team, with these teams you're up against. I know Manchester City, they're also an amazing team, but when you have that bit of that cup game, you know you've got that little bit of leniency. If I was going to obviously pick, I probably would do the rotation as well, because we've got plenty of midfield. There's so much midfield competition, what we do have. I know there is, like, obviously the defense and also the forward area, we haven't got as many players there compared to the midfield, but that gives that midfield that little bit of an opportunity to show to Matt Skinner that they are worthy of being in that starting 11 lineup compared to such and such a player who Matt Skinner does decide to play in the future games. It just puts them that bit of stance there to say, I am willing to fight for my spot here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading. I think it's Niles. Is it? No, sorry, it's Robert in the comments saying, which is how many changes we make so long as we beat Man City, and I think that's kind of like, that's a bit awkward because it's hard to beat Man City with a full strength starting 11. So if we do kind of make these changes, we are kind of putting ourselves on the back foot, and Skinner will come under criticism for that. But like I said, on the flip side, you're never going to play these youngsters or these players, these squad players, if it's not in a Conti Cup game.
And we are assuming that they're not going to do the similar thing, though, and play some of their squad players as well for the same reasons. But as I said, it's weird because he has such a public hatred of his own academy. So it's a strange one, really.
Still being my local team. Thank you, Connor.
Talking about the Conti Cup, Connor. Keep up. Not the FA Cup. That starts in January, mate.
It's not long till the FA Cup now, Connor. And then you can talk about the FA Cup all you want then. Do you think perhaps maybe Matt Skinner might bring a couple of youth players through? Because I know the under-21s for the women are doing pretty good at the moment, aren't they? Or do you think he might just stick to the players who he does have, but who hasn't started as a regular?
You want to take this one first, Andy?
Yeah, you go, John. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I'll go first.
I'll answer it as well.
Okay. 100% if we don't win tomorrow, I think the whole thing's going to be academy players going forward. I've heard, I want to say Chloe Williams. If I get this wrong, that'll kill me. The one who's just done a dual registration with Blackburn. I've heard there's a possibility, maybe she might get a game, which would be great, or at least be on the bench. I think Carrie Jones obviously is almost a squad player now, isn't she, rather than being a dev. Rebecca May and I only know her by a slang. Maz, what's her surname, John? That player, the one who's the goal machine at the devs level.
Yeah, Marie Edwards.
That's the one. Yeah,
I believe she's injured at the moment. So,
oh, is she? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a shame. It really is. I don't know how serious that is. If you talk about strikers, then Carla Solskjaer's name always gets branded around. I know before we went up to Durham, there was an article came out by Catherine Batty, and she was saying, "Oh, is this a time for Kana?" No, not at the moment. I think give her time. I think you basically feeding her to the wolves, playing against Man City for her first senior game.
The pressure she's going to have when she does play, it's going to be really heavy, and the pressure she's going to have is really heavy. And I'm assuming Ollie would be there to support his daughter, so it's all going to be a bit of a pressure cooker anyway when that happens.
Yeah, I do agree with some of the names that you mentioned, like Carrie Jones, potentially whether or not she'll start or come on as a sub. I suppose it depends if you're going to be playing the likes of Martha Thomas or Russo. If they start, then half an hour before the end, she could come on. But I think you should be starting with either Fuso or Carrie, and then whoever doesn't start can come on as a sub for somebody else.
I think more than likely it'll probably be Carrie coming on as a sub, because they might try Fuso or Russo as a starting player, because you see Carrie more, especially as an academy player, you probably don't want to put on a bit too much pressure for her, knowing that the game is going to be a big game and you are expecting them 3 points. And for someone who's come from the academy coming into a big game like Manchester City, it can be quite a lot for just a young player.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also just sort of broadening it out a little bit. I'm really interested to see Kirsty Smith coming back, because, I mean, to be honest, it's been that long. I can't even remember much about her, to be honest. But what I did notice today is she's been called up for the Scotland squad. So to still get an international call up after a long period on the sidelines, there's a fundamental quality there that should make us happy as United fans. So hopefully we're going to be able to see that revisited for the Conti.
Kirsty's got a lot of love in the fan base, and when I always think of, I think of so many different things. Obviously, throughout the 3 seasons of seeing Kirsty Smith, but one of the things that always stands out in a very positive way is usually players don't sign autographs until the end, but because she's usually like a substitute, she's like she's obviously on the subs bench. And there's so many people, like at the very start, when people are coming into the ground, they quickly run up and just get an autograph off her. And she's always there, like with the selfies, and obviously can't do that now. But she was like the only one, I think, that did that. And I just think that was really nice. And she's still got a lot of fans behind her. Even though she's not first choice, she's probably a very good third choice fullback. And I can't wait to see her play again, definitely.
Mm-hmm. There was a question in the comments if any of us is going to the game tomorrow. And you are definitely going to the game, aren't you, Andy?
Yeah, I am. I'm there. John's. You're in our section as well, aren't you? West and South.
Yeah, the usual section. If that's what that is. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I'll be setting off in about an hour's time, camping out.
You think he's joking? To be honest, I expect that to happen one day. Really.
Yeah, no, we're going. Definitely looking forward to it. Slightly different this time because with it being a cup game, all the season ticket holders may not be able to sit in their usual places, which is massively unfortunate.
Yeah.
Definitely something that we need to be looking at going forward. So we are kind of split up a little bit this time, which is a massive shame, but hopefully we can get that rectified. Yeah,
that's what I was alluding to there. But I suppose it does give people to give a chance to look at the game. I mean, tickets are still available, as we saw with Martha Thomas's video that she did today. So just give it a go. Honestly, I mean, what else you got to do in a rainy, cold middle of November? If you've ever wanted to give the women's game a go, at City in the Cup, you could certainly think of worse games to be your first game. And that's going to be a great game, I think.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a good game. Chloe actually was thinking the same mind as me, because this was actually going to be my next question about if we think Bo Risa will be making a start tomorrow. For me, I think she probably will get that start. I know she had a start against Everton. She came off as a sub, so most likely Mark Skinner for me, by the looks of her coming off as a sub, he was probably saving her for the Conti Cup for tomorrow. And I think she did play in the last Conti Cup, didn't she, against Durham, I believe, if I was right?
Yeah, and she plays. I mean, the thing about Borisa, and I've said this as well, she really is high quality. And there's certain runs that she did, at Everton, where it was like she was on a different level, and she just got to get the game time and get the confidence, and hopefully, as I say, with the Conti, she's got to start. It's a no-brainer. I mean, even Skinner with his triple backflip zone 26 things that he does, he's got to find some place for her in the starting 11.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. I think with the breaking news today that Hayley Ladd's going to be out as well. Thank you, Emma Sanders, for putting all this information out, and I believe Asif as well. She's got to start, because if she doesn't start, then you're probably going to be playing Tooney and Lucy Stan and Katie Zellum, which is very, very attacking minded, isn't it? So I think probably Balrisa will start, even if it's just by default. I do think she'll start, but it's a great opportunity for her as well.
I mean, the interesting thing as well, just to broaden that out a bit, it depends whether or not. I know in the men's game it's more common when you have like your cup goalkeeper and your league goalkeeper. We've discussed about how Bagley's going to probably be number one. Nothing to do with how Mary did or is doing. It just seems to be obviously what they've been doing. I wonder whether or not Katie Zellum will be on the bench because Mannion was captain at Durham and Katie was on the bench. So maybe Barista will play with Stanny and Tooney as an interesting one.
Let me come in on this one because I do think that. I think that would have potentially happened if Ladd had stayed fit, because I think it was Ladd and Balrisa that was kind of one pairing and Jackie and Katie that was the other pairing. Mm-hmm. But I think now potentially with Ladd being out, maybe we won't. I don't know. We haven't seen much of Lucy. Katie has played a lot of minutes. She wasn't subbed off. So it wouldn't bother me one bit if we saw Lucy play. I'm just not too sure if that midfield three has got the experience of working together, because we haven't really seen much of that, have we? But it would be definitely adventurous. I think it would be quite creative as well. But I think it's very hard to take Katie out of the team when you're playing Man City as well. You know, taking a captain out at a derby match like that, I think it's quite bold, isn't it? But this is a game to take Katie out if you're going to, because it's a Conti Cup game, so might rest her for Arsenal.
Yeah, and as well, I think there's only a couple more games till international break, because I'm sure international break is next week as well. So potentially Katie still might make a start for me, just because we've got City, who's a big game, and I think sometimes when you do take your captain out, it does raise a couple of questions to fans, like, is there something, what's going on in the background? And especially when we've got Arsenal coming up and then there's international break, what's going to be the first game, I think it's next Saturday. You probably think, I'll try and get the most out of my best plays for these next couple of games as well.
Yeah, I mean, he did it for Durham, but obviously that was, as you say, there was not as Connor's comment there about Zellum would have got arrested if Jackie Ladd was fit. With those, there's only one midfield option. Yeah, but I don't know. It just depends whether or not they are actually looking at it as a development plan. I mean, I don't know. I like to see sort of traits and different things, and I listened to Zellum's podcast yesterday on the Man United app. And, and she talks about Mannion being another leader in the dressing room and actually nominated her for the next person to be interviewed. She obviously must be deputy because she also got the armband in Durham. So maybe just like you rotate Mary, maybe like Mannion is essentially a deputy as well from a leadership standpoint. Mm-hmm. So maybe it might just be written in and that's what's going to happen. I definitely think if she does go on the bench, should be nailed on to come on, maybe in the second half. But I think it might be something that that Skinner wants to see her lead as well, just like he wants to see Bagley get minutes.
Mm-hmm. There was a couple of questions here as well. I'll answer mine from Vincent. You need to go to a home or away game. I will be going to a home game on Sunday against Arsenal. That will be my first actual women's game I'm watching live. Here's a question what I thought could be discussed. Would you take Kim Little at Manchester United? Because I know there has been a lot of people who has been having a lot of praise for Kim Little this season.
I'll let John start with that one.
Yeah, of course. She's a fantastic player. There's so many players in the WSL that I would take. I think there's a few players that maybe Arsenal, Chelsea, and City combined that would get into our starting 11, if I'm perfectly honest, based on this season. And then obviously we need to bulk up our squad as well. But yeah, as for Kim Little and Arsenal in general, she's just done great, hasn't she? Top of the league. The fact that she's kind of outshining the likes of Miedemar this season, and even Leah Williamson and Tobin Heath and so forth, it just shows how well she is doing. So yeah, absolutely, you're a man not to take that type of talent.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at, obviously, apparently just retired from international football. So you've got that Scottish link again. So if you talk about pairings, we discussed in midfield. You're going to have then Kirsty Smith, Kirsty Hansen, and obviously she'd be another Scottish player. So again, you've got that experience and that sort of link there. And again, 31. I know John can get a bit on some of these ages. You're still all right at 31, John. You've got a few years left there. Yeah. And again, maybe some more depth in midfield. But again, we need more strikers to support Russo and Thomas. So Team Blackstinius, hopefully for January.
Mm-hmm. And here was another name which Niall mentioned for a winger. And I know a few people, when we was actually on Alpha United WFC, we did mention that we do need a winger. So here could be another option for us to take us. We've got a couple of spaces left in our team anyway, and that could help us in terms of our forward position too.
Yeah, I think if you chat to a lot of the contributors that we have on our channel, they would probably, I wouldn't say rave about this player, but they definitely say, yeah, she's solid, she does well. Whether or not she could take us to the next level, I'm very happy with Galton and Hansen. This season is a bit different because we're playing differently, and that's a whole different ball game. Not to open up that kind of worms. But I think if you're talking about wingers, me personally, I would like to see someone who's better than Hansen or Galton, who can really compete with those places. And then maybe bring Marie Edwards in as our fourth choice. So, yes, I mean, good player, but I would probably be looking at someone even better.
Just to pick on Connor's comments, we need people that score goals consistently and quite a lot. Typically, they tend to be strikers or inside forwards. Yeah, he's right, obviously. I'm just desperate to get somebody that is classed as a forward. No, again, the Scottish. I think to be honest, there's a lot there. If you can't, we have got a very strong young team, and over the next few years, they probably will grow together and have lots of experience, which will benefit their international sides, like with Scotland and with England, and will benefit us as well. And that's a good position to be in. I think Leah has struggled this season. I'm a massive fan of Leah Galton. She's on my back when I have my shirt. A big fan of her, but she has struggled this season. So I think, if you're new to this season, you might not realize that the world-class winger that she actually is. Certainly if you look at last season. So I would say maybe we'll see if we can unlock the old Leah Galton a little bit. And if we can unlock the old Leah Galton, the conversation about a new winger will go out the window. Because she is that good. But obviously, if she still continues to struggle, we may need other support.
I've got a question here. It is a bit of a controversial one. Would you try a different formation against Manchester City? For me, when I've been watching some of their games, it feels like we're getting, especially in the first half, we've been so good in terms of possession of the ball. We're very dominant. And then when it comes to the second half of the season, it seems a bit like we play a bit like under Casey Stoney's kind of ways. I don't know if both of you have noticed this. So would you try different formations, see if that works a little bit better? Maybe a 4-3-3. I know Connor, when we was on Alpha United, suggested a diamond formation.
Yes, so let's start on this one. I still think you're going to. I don't think it's going to be anything too radical. I think it'll still be 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 more attacking players. I think you might see maybe like some kind of shuffle in the midfield. So, for example, if we don't play Zellum and we play maybe like a Lucy Stad or Bo Reese together, you might see those be a bit further up the pitch. I don't think we'll do anything too crazy. I knew Connor was going to put Diamond formation. He's the one pushing it, and I can see why. He's actually got some logic behind this. So, because Connor's not on the show, I'll kind of give Connor's reason behind this. So hopefully Connor will do some justice. But this season we have played completely different under Skinner compared to KC. We're not using the width; we're using the fullbacks to create that width. So Skinner has come out and said he wants inverted commas to tuck in. To create space out wide for the fullbacks to go down, and I completely get that. It's not working at the moment, but the logic is there. By playing a diamond, you allow that extra 4th midfielder to be in there, as opposed to 3, which means that you can probably then play Bolrisa, Jackie, Zellum, and Ladd together, which will keep the fan base happy because they get to see all their favourites still on the pitch. But then, obviously, the issue there is you're going to have to drop one of your wingers, if not 2. So that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but obviously when you've got the talent of Galton and Hansen, it's a very bold move to drop those. But if they're not suiting this new formation, then I can see why you play Russo and Thomas. Go on, Andy.
Yeah, obviously with Connor's comment there, I'm just thinking, we are blessed in the women's game. We have the ability to. We sort of had a little chat to Skinner when he came over at the end of the game. I mean, I'm expecting you Connor to, the old Rihanna song, "Shine Bright Like a Diamond." We're gonna whip that one out tomorrow for him, just to give him a bit of a hint of what we're looking at. Is that I'll join you, mate. Don't worry. Apparently I read somewhere that the most successful formation in the WSL is the women's game generally is 4-3-3. I don't know
I really like that formation myself, the 4-3-3.
And I think, to be honest, I lean
balanced.
towards it. Yeah, I lean towards it because I am so attackingly minded, but I am aware that obviously we need to sort up our defense. And I've said it multiple times on various shows that I think Skinner was given an option when he first started this season. Do you want a weak defense or do you want a weak attack? And I think he chose to have a weak attack, which is probably the right decision. So yeah, I would say probably 4-3-3. Maybe instead of with two traditional forwards, maybe an attacking midfielder, possibly instead, slightly behind the two. I think the thing that certainly Leslie is great, and she's got very, very top quality, but she has to go hunting for herself. And I think the idea that someone can give a regular service is what she's crying out for. And actually, I saw some good things off Martha Thomas. Whether or not she can do the full 90 coming back from injury against City, definitely as well, is going to be a question. But I would definitely I don't want anything silly with one up front, because if we sit there and try and soak up the pressure, what's going to happen is we're going to concede, and then confidence, etc. So I'd like to be more attacking than defensive minded, definitely.
I think just touching on this as well, I think it's a very courageous, or it could be courageous, it could be stupid, to try a different formation in this game where potentially you need to win and you're against Man City. So I think that might play on Skinner's mind potentially. It could work the other way. It could completely catch Man City off guard and do something different. But from what I've seen of Skinner so far, he does like to kind of stick to his guns on that. From what Connor was saying about that formation, I think it is right. I think obviously it does become three at the back because Hayley Ladd will drop in as well, which will release Ona and Hannah to go further up the pitch, which is what we need. I do also think last time we played City and Chelsea, it was very tough, especially Chelsea. So I don't think you'll do anything too stupid and go 1-0 down early on like we did against Chelsea and City. So I think he'll be a bit more cagey, which may upset fans, but I think he's doing it because he knows the capabilities of the team, and he's probably not up there with maybe some of the top teams. So I think he has got to be very careful in this game.
Connor here makes an interesting point. I do agree that Matt Skinner does need to keep his style of play because, as he says, you don't want to create too much confusion onto the players, but you do need to also think if, for example, the formation you're currently using is not working at that moment in time, you do need to fix it up to something what is going to be useful, because especially in the second half, we are conceding them little goals, aren't we, especially?
Oh, Mark. he tests me, this guy. No, I mean, I think it's been very, very tough that we've been switching off towards the end of the second half of the last two games. I don't think that's United. I don't think that's the way he wants to play, and I don't think that's the way the players would like to play. I think there has been just riding it back to what we were saying previously as well. I think there has been a bit of a sea change with the manager. I don't know if anyone's listened to his pre-match interview today. He sounded a lot more businesslike. He sounded a lot more focused. He was a little bit less like he just had a load of gummy candy and just was sort of a bit e-numbery. He was a bit more sort of focused on the job in hand. I think he realizes now that he's not going to be able to have a little fun evaluation of the players this season because we're going to be on his back. I'd like to think he would maybe change it a little bit, because at the end of the day, both teams are full-time. Both teams have a lot of resources. They're going to have a lot of tape, a lot of film on the way United play. So if he does do something different, that could unnerve them a little bit. But it is City, so we're not talking to Birmingham here. But yeah, I think, just going back to Connor's comment as well, it's a very fine balance in that. Yeah, the players have got to, it's like learning a language. You've got to learn the new way of doing it. You've got to pause through it. But if you're trying to squash, a square peg in a round hole, at some point you've either got to change the hole or change the peg. So, it might be a situation where certain players are just not going to get it and they will be moved on, or he will have to amend his team. I think it might even been Connor. I think another person I knew was saying that sometimes you can see the players default to the KC style of play, because they either get confused or they get stressed out and they just go back to what they're used to. So possibly, that could be a factor as well, which is causing some issues for Skinner.
I think that's a great comment on screen. So if I can just jump in there, and I want to ask the people in the comments, and obviously we could all discuss this. If we don't win against City, then that'll be like 4 or 5 games on a trot where we've drew. To say we get a draw, then I just think the fan base is just going to flip out again. And people who don't know me, I am a Skinner fan. I'm not saying he's perfect at all, but I do back Skinner, and Andy's laughing because he knows this very well. I think it's.
I am as well, by the way. Just
I know.
All three of us are. All three of us are.
Yeah. I claim to be the biggest one, though. No, I'm only joking. No. What I'm saying is, it's a shame that we're at a point now where we're saying a draw against Man City would be a bad result, because it's not. City, even though they're not having the best season, it's still Man City with some quality players. And we want to bet resting 3 or 4 of our star players. A draw, I know it wouldn't be very good for the competition because we'd be very much underdogs, but a draw in general against Man City isn't such a bad result. It's just the fact that what's gone on before it that's led to this now kind of puts extra pressure on.
Problem is as well, remember, because of the Conti, it isn't really a draw; it's penalty shootout afterwards. So that would again affect the fan base. I'm just mentally going back to Durham. That was an interesting draw and an ultimate win. But just to touch on the draw, I mean, and maybe link to penalties, because we could be having this conversation, well, pretty much this time tomorrow. If you look at it, it would be about now that it would be going to penalties if that was the case. There was actually a lot of good things there. All right, Sophie saved the penalty when the ref decided she didn't whistle or some crap like that. But I actually really liked what I saw from the penalty shootout. I've said before, I've told this before, and it's a joke, but it's also true. I could smell Skinner's aftershave at the end of the game. He was that close to me. And I genuinely, I got a full 4K version of Mark Skinner right in front of me when he was talking about the flag. He didn't go around and ask players who was going to take penalties. He obviously already knew. Because you see on TV, they have a little notepad out, don't they? And he sort of asked people, no, you already knew. And we put a striker on the 5th kick, which is really, really good and really, really rare in the English game, because we like to put a random defender who's not scored for 25 years on the 5th kick and wonder why it never goes well. So that gives me confidence that if it does go to a draw in the Conti, we might get that extra point. And for our cup runs going forward, maybe we're good at penalties. Hopefully you're not going to play this tomorrow and go, no, we weren't, were we? But hopefully we are, from what I've seen.
Touch wood.
Yeah, that's some work.
I touched brick then. I don't know where my wood is. I'm hoping that's the same. There was a question here as well saying, up to now, in your opinion, who's your player of the year? So we'll do both Manchester United and we'll do both in the Super League as well. So we've got a varied there. For my Manchester United one, it has to be Ella Toon for me, who's been the player of the season. I think she's been terrific. She's definitely been a standout player. She's averaging out a goal or an assist every single game. She's literally a big influence on the pitch, and for how young she is, and she's getting the stats, and she's making that big influence in the midfield or even in the false 9 position. I think she's playing very well. Who would your player of the year be so far for you, Andy?
I would have said Ella Toon. I'll try and change it because you were saying that as well. You know what, Mary? Because she was, people were, including myself, people were wondering whether or not she was going to get the number 1 jersey this year. She had issues with her distribution. She was a bit wobbly when they played the ball back, and she's done some great saves. She's solid at the back. She seems to have got rid of a lot of the ghosts that she had last year, and she's now England's number 1. She's gone from literally watching England like we do in a way, unfortunately, at home, to being like the number 1 choice. And that's great. And I would say, she's looking confident, she's looking composed, she's looking as a person being interviewed, even she just looks in a much happier place. And she's given us a strong goalkeeper, which is, we've now got 2 strong goalkeepers, which is actually a strength that a lot of WSL teams, even the top ones, don't have. Look at how City have struggled without Roebuck. for example. So that's actually probably an undervalued resource in the fan base that us as fans don't really see, because you don't really think of it. You think about resources are further up the pitch.
And John, who's yours?
You can't say Skinner. He's not a player. He's a manager.
Maybe the end of the season, I'll throw him in there somewhere. Obviously, I have to say Ella Toon. I'll say somebody else as well, but Ella Toon, just to kind of put it in context as well, not only is she playing amazingly well for United, scoring and assisting, even at the start of the season when he was playing a false 9, that's not even her role. She was still scoring and assisting when she was playing in a false 9. We've seen her play out wide, and even more importantly for her now, she's one of the Lionesses. She's consistently in the Lionesses, and she's also basically made the manager play a 4-1-4-1 kind of system where the manager doesn't need to choose between her and Kirby or her and anybody else. She's playing in the start 11 now, and that's just absolutely amazing. And even like the media side of things, she's doing interviews. It's her face that's on the Sky Sports, or it's on all the graphics. We can't rave enough about Ella Toon. Someone different. I agree with yourself, Andy. Mary Eves has made some world-class saves to keep us in some matches. Connor's mentioned Russo. I agree. If she had played the whole season, potentially she would be a candidate. I can't really say anyone different apart from anyone a little bit lower down. So, like for example, Mannion, her first season, she's done really well, but then they're not at the level of Ella Toon at the moment.
And what about in the Super League? I'll stay with you, John. Who you think is the Super League play of the season for you so far?
Arsenal are obviously doing really well, so I don't mind giving Leah Williams a shout out. She's done really well again for England as well. So I kind of got to shout her out. We mentioned Little earlier. I'm a big Pernilla Harder fan as well. Didn't see her do amazingly well last season for the price tag that she came in at. I think something like 300,000, 350,000, which was the world record fee at that time. But I think this season she's showing it. She showed it against us, scored an amazing goal against us. So I think she's up there. You could go through quite a few players, but I think that's probably ticks quite a few boxes there.
Yeah,
and I'd probably say Beth Mead as well.
Yes.
Arsenal, only because I really wish she could. About to say because she's a United fan and hopefully she'll come to us, but I appreciate I might be wishful thinking. But again, just I've seen her a bit more for the Lionesses as well, and she's got that sort of determination and the sort of like that sort of bit of a swagger, maybe a bit of the what hopefully will be a United swagger that we talk about, that element of cockiness in a good way, and belief as well as skill. And she does that thing that I like players to do, Mark: score.
Another player who has stood out for me as well, I know she does stand out quite a lot of seasons, and that is a Sam Kerr for me from Chelsea. She's another player who stood out. She's a natural goal scorer. She's very well with Frank Kirby as well. I know a lot of people like Frank Kirby too. But for me, I just feels like some weeks I think Frank Kirby's better than some weeks I think Sam Kerr's better, because they're both literally at a very good level as each other, but then you just think which one's the better one, because I think they've got a really good partnership with one another as well.
Yeah, and come out today as well that she's just signed an extension on a contract, which is absolutely huge, because we all thought she was going back either back home or back to the United States. So it makes you wonder what Lauren James's future holds there as well, going there now, because I kind of thought, well, maybe one out, one in. But yeah, absolutely. Two different types of players though. I like to see Kirby more as like a Tooney kind of role. I'm probably the wrong person to speak to on Kirby, because there's so many more Kirby fans than myself. But I see her more of a creator as well as a scorer. Whereas I see Kerr more of like a bit more forward. But yeah, both quality players, absolutely.
I'll go to my next question now, and it was, what advice would you give to the team for tomorrow's game? Yep, I've got you both there on the spot, because it is a very hard advice on what you would like to give. And for me, the advice I would like to give is more to stay calm with the game, go on into an open mind, just to think, right, we're playing against Manchester City. It is a big game. All we just need to do is come out with that 3 points, just stay stable as a team, just sustain that possession of the ball, because Manchester City has had quite a few injuries, and they probably will play. I think they probably will play a strong team as well, knowing that the amount of injuries they've had too. So it is always going to be a tough game against Manchester City. So it's more for me as in just to stay calm on the ball, just to try and keep that possession there as well. And then just see how we go from there, because as you say, playing against Manchester City, if we do come out with a win, it would be absolutely brilliant. I would love to come out with the full 3 points against Manchester City. John, what would your advice be?
I think they're going to be in two minds, because if they go at it, then they could potentially just be outclassed, which is going to be massively unfortunate. That's going to be in the heads. Or if they sit back and defend and just try and keep it 0-0, 1-1 and hope for that winner, then that could work against them as well. So I think no matter which way they set up, they could also set themselves up to fail. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I would like to try and keep it tight, because you have more chance of winning, and then just make sure that when you do get a chance, take it, whether that be through wingers playing wide to get into some space, or whether it be a Katie's own free kick or something. We won't get that many chances, so when we do have a chance, we've got to take them. That could be now trying to create more chances, so are you going to shoot more outside the box? That could potentially be a good thing, which means maybe Tooney and Lucistan will maybe play, because they've got a decent shot outside the box. For me, I think just don't do anything stupid, because a lot of our losses or where we've dropped points have come from our own mistakes. So just don't do anything stupid. Keep it tight. We will get maybe 3 or 4 chances. Take 1 or 2 of them, and then hopefully that will be a way to get the maximum points.
Mm-hmm.
I was only laughing.
You, John? I mean, what about you, Andy? Sorry.
Really offended me now. I was only laughing because I was just thinking about the various sort of emotions we've all been through as fans, and it's like, what advice would I give to the team that would allow me to give advice again? Maybe I can be dragged out otherwise. No, I think I'll say what Skinner. Skinner came over after the game. He was mainly speaking to Nat, but I did overhear some things. And one of the things that we were saying is we need wingers, and he was like, I know. And then was one of us said, none of this cutting in business. You need to cut in to create the space out wide. Maybe, I don't know, but I think the main piece of advice that I would give to the team is that United has a culture of exciting football, of attacking football, and the thing that I actually said to Skinner directly was pace. Like, maybe it's not the way we're playing it. It might be me misinterpreting his system. But I think, to be honest, there's 2 things. We need to up the pace, maybe. I think, similar to what you were saying, try and dictate the game and not wait for City to come on to us. Now, there are going to be periods of time where City do obviously attack. We're going to have to withstand that attack. I think if we keep it tight, we'll lose. Because they're just going to be knocking on the door, and we're going to struggle. I think, to be honest, I'd rather us go out, and as I said, actually, for the league game, is score first. I think if we score first, the likelihood of us winning is much, much higher, because we are a confidence team. So I would say, obviously follow Skinner's system, whatever that may be, and maybe just speed it up a bit, because, the pace was missing a little bit in Everton, and a bit of game management as well, because there's 3 minutes added time for the game in Everton, and Maria got a free kick, and I swear to God, she was playing golf. It took about 2 minutes for it to get set up, and when you're looking for a winner, you don't want to be doing stuff like that. So just constant clock awareness and trying to get the pace. Mm-hmm. And if we are playing younger players, they're going to have energy. They're going to have energy. Here we go, Skinner. They're going to have energy, and they're going to have like the speed, to maybe run around the Jill Scott a little bit. And hopefully, there's 2 ways it can go with young players. They can either be overawed by the occasion and underperform, or they can have no fear and perform brilliantly because they don't know sort of the occasion. They're just playing like free and and the way that they want to be. And I hope that obviously we could get that a bit of pace back, really. because that's what I think we're missing this season.
Yeah, it's good that you did touch on that pace, to be honest, because you do see sometimes as well, especially when we're on the counter attack, we're a bit like we stall that little bit and then we wait for somebody to pass, and then we could run round, we could run down on the left or on the right, but we stop, wait for somebody. But for me, especially when you're playing it's a bit better when you do play a team like Reading or Birmingham, you can afford to stall that little bit. But when you play against Manchester City, who's also got pace, you've got to quickly pass, one touch pass. That's what you got to do. You got to be very, very quick onto the counter attack and make sure you do give your all when you're running and passing. Because when you do look at the Chelsea game as well, the passing wasn't tightened that little bit. I think maybe because of how much pressure Chelsea did put us under. So we need to make sure as well our passing is key as well for tomorrow's game.
Yeah, and as I say, it's about accuracy as well. I think we discussed in the other shows as well on All for United WFC that, the problem I think with the championship, with the WSL, that is very difficult, and I appreciate it's a Conti Cup game, but they're both WSL teams, is I think it's hard to get in a rhythm because the time you get on the ball varies so much. If you play Birmingham one week and then you play Chelsea the next week, the amount of time you might on the ball in Birmingham might be as much as 2 or 3 times as long as you're going to have with Chelsea. So it's hard to get in the rhythm and get used to, well, okay, you're going to have this amount of time. What are you going to do with it? And I think, but I think hopefully if we can get City right, the good news is, in a way, we're playing Arsenal the following game, and they're going to have about a similar time or even less time on the ball. So I think we need to get better at making quick decisions and sticking by them. Because if we're trying to keep the ball while somebody catches up to us, as you say, John was saying that, you were saying as well, that, we kind of stop and have a look. Even the goal that we scored, Everton, the final pass was to Tooney where we could have gone along. We scored, so it was fine. But, I think we do need that kind of way of judging how long we're going to have time on the ball. Because I think that's where we've got a bit unstuck earlier this season, where we played a team where we have a lot of time on the ball. Then we play a team like Chelsea and we're suddenly getting the ball taken off us. It's like, oh, we're going to do. And it's hard to sort of reset when that happens.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we've got a question here from Chloe about our starting 11 for the game tomorrow. I will put it on the big screen so we can go through it all together, because I know we did touch on a couple of players, didn't we, and who we think was going to be in the starting 11, because I know we did mention about Bagley, we mentioned about as well Mannion potentially being the captain, and we did also touch on Bo Reesen potentially starting as well.
Yeah, I agree with those. But yeah, I want Chloe to. I don't want Chloe to get away with this, by the way. I want Chloe to put her starting 11 in the comments as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. Appreciate that.
Yes, Chloe, you do the same. Put your 11 on.
I can run through mine now. I think we have kind of just said it. I think Sophie in goal. I think the 2 centre backs will stay the same due to the injuries. So I think it'll be Mannion and Thor. Either Honor or Hannah will stay. So I think I'll go with Honor on this one, and then Curtis Smith will come in. Fingers crossed. So that will be my defence. Midfield, because Ladd and Jack is out, for me, it's Zellum and Balrisa. Ahead of them, I think the question is, do you keep with Tooney and try and get the winner and then sub Tooney off, or start with Lucy? I'd probably put Lucy in because I think that's probably what he'll do. I think it's very risky, but I think with that in mind, then he'll probably start Russo up front with Fuso and Hansen. So I think that way, there's so many variations that he could do, but I think that way he's keeping a very good striker on the pitch in Russo, who could create something out of nothing, and he's resting a few players. He's also putting Youth out there and Hansen at the start of the last match, so he could start this match. But there's so many ways you could look at this. Go on, Andy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it just tweaks, really, because as you say, we haven't got the biggest squad, so it's not that surprising. I think, as you say, Bagley in goal, the 2 centre-backs stay the same. I would probably take a bench Honor, probably, but not for any performance reasons. I think possibly it just feels like one that you can do that for. As you say, bring Kirsty Smith, maybe see how Kirsty Smith goes with Hannah. both pacey players. Midfield, Borisa, definitely 100%. And I'd probably go with. I don't think he's going to do this, as you say, but Borisa and Staniforth in the middle. And then obviously if you look at your sort of front three, maybe he's an attacking midfielder or not, maybe put Fuso and then have Russo and Hansen, but that's very strong. So maybe Fuso as an attacking midfielder and maybe Hansen and Carrie Jones, because the benefit of having Tooney on the bench, which I appreciate, sounds a bit sounds a bit wrong, basically, because he's our best player at the moment. But if it does wobble, if it does go a bit funny, we've got someone to come off the bench.
Yeah.
And we're so psychological, we're so like all about that now, that if they are wobbling and they've lost their confidence and you put Tooney off the bench at the beginning of the second half, then we could turn it around. If you go and have her already on there, she's going to have that confidence issue if it's gone wrong already. So I like the idea of having Honor on the bench and having Tooney on the bench, because they could come on to steady the ship, which is kind of what you want to be doing on the Conti anyway, rather than it be obviously starting 11. And if there's a problem, if you put them on to start with, you haven't really got anywhere to go on the bench. If it goes wrong, if you need like a game changer to come off the bench.
Chloe here has also had her starting 11, which is Sophie, Smith, Mannion, Maria, Hannah, Borisa, Jones, Hansen, Toon, Russo, and Fuso. So that is also a very strong lineup there to have. So do you all think it's going to be a 4-2-3-1 still? What's going to be remaining then?
I think looking at Chloe's formation, that's very attacking. She's going for it.
Yes.
I should have mentioned Mannion, to be honest. That might have been a better position as well. It maybe instead of 4 even, to be honest. Because obviously if you're not playing Zellum, you need her as deputy, so you need her as a captain as well on the pitch.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I would probably go with Sophie. I'd go Smith, Mannion, Maria, Hannah. I'd put Bo Reese on. I would actually also try as well Lucy. I'd start Tuna, start Russo, and start Fuso. So a bit similar to what everybody else is having. I picked Lucy as well, because I think with Lucy, she did also make that impact against Manchester City the last time. She did get that second goal for us. So perhaps maybe if she starts, she might actually do very well in terms of starting for us, see what kind of impact she can make, firstly as a starting player, and then get an impactful sub coming on. So that'd be quite interesting to see on how Lucy would be there too. And Chloe said Captain Mannion starting 100%.
Oh my God, I've corrupted Chloe. I'm really sorry. She never used to be so opinionated.
We've got a question here as well from Vincent. There's rumours going around that the Glazers, they're going to be giving away some shares. The shares it's known as special shares, so they're giving some like voices away to the vote, to us as a fans. Will there be any shares given to the women's team? What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, I saw this because I know people might think that being hilarious on podcasts is my job, but it isn't. And I actually work. I'm a research analyst, so I work in this area. And basically, the shares relate to the club, not an individual team. So you just have Manchester United Football Club, and they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, basically. So what people might find confusing is that Glazers obviously have the majority of the shares. So you think of a pie. Say they have 2/3 of the cake. When they're talking about giving shares away or trading it, you're simply just talking about giving a little bit of their cake. They're still going to be obviously the main owner, and there's different classes of shares as well. So they have like a preference share, which is that they have more of a vote. It was basically worth more than if you all had shares, and my votes might be worth 2 of yours or 3 of yours. So I think it'd be good if fans did obviously want to go into the club and buy shares, but it isn't really affecting the Glazers at all, if that makes sense. It's a bit of not a PR move, but it's a bit of a strange thing to do. You're not actually diluting Glazers' influence, if you know what I mean. It's just kind of a bit of a of a strange thing. But yeah, people want to do it. Obviously, it's a nice thing to have, but you'd have to look at it and see if you wanted to hold it. But yeah, it's done by the club and not by the teams.
Mm-hmm. And there was a question here as well. How many Manchester women are there in the Man United team? I know Katie, she is from Oldham, if I'm correct, as well, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she said on the podcast, Failsworth, which is in Oldham, but it's very specific, isn't it?
Ella Toon, obviously.
Yeah, this is a test now. You're testing us now.
Yeah, let's go. Well, Fan Bentley, goalkeeper, obviously out on loan at the moment. I'm sure Bentley's from that area as well. I'm sure she's from Lee. I'm sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure she's gone to college in Lee. Was it Bentley? Yeah, I'm sure it was. We'll double check that one. Defender.
Yeah, we're going to Lee College. It says so. Yeah, you're right.
Where they go to college. I read that. I'm not a stalker. Seriously, I think I listen to all the Manchester people too much. I don't think any of the defenders are, from what I remember. Midfielders, no, I don't think, apart from Toon. Strikers, am I missing someone? Oh, apart from maybe the youngsters, the devs, but no, Carrie Jones isn't, obviously she's Welsh. No, I can't think of anybody else in the senior team.
No, I can't think anyone else off the top of my
head. I know I've
rushed
through that, but I think that's pretty much the ones that stand out to me.
Yeah, because Leah's Leeds, isn't she? Leah Galton's from Leeds.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot on Northern. That's it. We can probably maybe broaden it out a little bit. You know, no. Southern.
We'll go now to the final question on what the score prediction is going to be. You know me, I will never predict against the team at all. I'm going to go 2-1 United because I will never predict against. And I don't feel like it is going to be a high-scoring game neither. So that's why I'm going to think it is going to be 2-1. Andy, what do you think the score's going to be?
I've just seen that as well. Emily Ramsey, that's another one, John, we forgot about. She's online.
Yeah. I want to
10-9 United. God, don't give me a heart attack. Just looking at that. To be honest, it's going to be something one because I don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet, and that's horrible because that's one of the things we used to be quite strong at. Yeah, to win. Yeah, because if I'm going to stick to that and say it's going to have to be 2-1, as a 2-1 or 1-0, I don't think we're going to get many goals. I worry it could be another 2-2, and then we end up doing penalties again. But yeah, 2-1, I think.
Millie Turner as well. Millie Turner's from Manchester. I kind of forgot Millie because I didn't the whole time. Yeah, Millie Turner's from Manchester. Yeah, so on the show that I did literally an hour ago, I says 2-1 because Anthony says 2-2. So because Andy says 2-1 here, I'm going to say 2-2 because I think if it's 2-1, 2-2, and I think we will win on penalties if it does.
I'm about to say, do we win on penalties though? In that,
yeah, we do. Although it might not be good enough to be fair at 2 points because for people who are watching who don't understand how it goes, if it goes to penalties, you don't get 3 points. You want to get 2 points if you win on penalties. So that still might not be good enough at it, but that could happen.
Mm-hmm. So we'll finish off this stream anyway. I just want to thank both Andy and John for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've both been amazing guests again, so thank you both so much. We'll go and shout out both your socials as well. Where can we find you, John?
John Foster MUFC on Twitter and YouTube, All for United WFC. We go live every day, sometimes a couple of shows a day with pre-records, etc. And we also support our local teams. So when we're not watching Manchester United, we do watch and sponsor some of our local teams. So please check us out on YouTube and Twitter, All for United WFC.
Yeah.
For anyone about All for United WFC, it is in my featured channel, so you don't have to go and search for All for United WFC. Just go onto my channel, go into the featured channel bit, and you'll be able to see All for United WFC there, and you can go and subscribe through that way. Andy, where can we find you?
Yeah, as I say, personal Twitter there, AJ_87. Also honoured to be a regular contributor of John Foster's Business Empire, which is All for United WFC. No, it's fantastic, and we have some great great shows on there, mainly on the fans forum on Friday, where you might see somebody you recognise, and I'm not talking about John, on Friday. And as he said, we support not only our local team, but his local team as well, because I've been to see Stourbridge, so I might end up going against when they go to Cambridge as well in a few weeks.
Brilliant. I'm actually on the fans forum itself this Friday, so you'll be able to see us on All for United WSC talking about a range of different topics. You wouldn't want to miss it. It is an absolute brilliant show, and I feel so grateful to be on All for United WSC, to come on there on the fans forum. It's absolutely brilliant.
We love having you as well.
It's great having you.
Absolutely.
Thank you both so much. I will be live next week. I haven't got no dates as to when I'll be going live, but I'll get something sorted. I'll get something scheduled, and you'll go and see it through my Twitter. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in today. Thank you to a great panel. Thank you for all the comments as well into the live chat. Please hit the like and subscribe button. When I did last check, I was on 280 subscribers, which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone.